Welcome to Behind the Story. My name's Lisa Renee from the Collaborative Press, and I'm also a contemporary romance author.
And I'm Naomi Craig, author of historical fiction Rahab's Courage. We had a fantastic interview with Sweet and Clean, Sweet and Swoony, rom-com author Ellie Hall. But before we get into that pre-recorded content, what are you working on right now, Lisa?
Well, I've got a lot on, and it's been great interviewing Ellie because I was able to pick her brains and get some advice and just see how she works things out, because she writes lots of Christian fiction, and then she's doing her Sweet and Clean rom-coms. So this month I'm writing a 25,000 novella for an anthology for a sweet rom-com set, headed up by Laura Burton, one of the writing girls. And so, yeah, I was just wondering whether to link that back into the existing series or start something fresh. So still got to decide on that. So I'll be plotting that out. And then in May, Tabitha and I are co-writing a rom-com for the My Funny Valentine box set. So that's going to be really cool. We've got this cool idea of a newlywed couple on their honeymoon, and the lady has an accident parasailing, and she gets amnesia and she forgets that she's married to him. So he has to convince her that they are married, and it's going to be quite hilarious. So I'm doing the guy's point of view, being the Australian, and Tabitha will do the American. And yeah, so it's just going to be so much fun. So yeah, what about you, Naomi? What have you been up to?
I submitted I don't even know what it was anymore, my Christmas novella, which is ironic because talking with Ellie, it's not what you'd think of as a Christmas novella. It's not all Hallmarky because of its biblical fiction, so it gets a little dark. So I have that with you and the critique partners, and I'm heading on to my third full-length book. So that you can find the scripture basis in First Chronicles 7. It's about Shira, and she is noted in the scriptures for having built 3 cities. So you can go and read that in Ephraim's Descendants, about a little bit of my story outline. So
I know you've done quite a lot of research for that. So when are you planning to dive into the writing for that?
I'm on the writing now. So I did the research back in the fall, or for fall for the Northern Hemisphere. And then I took a break for Christmas, and then I got my pre-order for Ezekiel's song out. And so now it's time. I've got to focus. I've got to be diligent and make sense with my words. So
yeah, I find that you just need to be a little bit easy on yourself with the first draft, just to get it out, and don't be too critical. Remember that you've got, you can layer it and improve over time and with edits.
That's true. Yeah. And so I normally do it, or I have done handwriting for the first draft, but then and then recently I did like a transcribing it with my voice. And so I'm trying to go right to on the computer and hopefully cut out a couple of steps, because if I think about it, I know I get stressed because I'm not far from my deadline. I can make it, but I can't dilly-dally, you know what I mean? So
how are you finding the speech to text? Are you doing it on your computer and you can see the translation, the transcription?
In the past I'd handwrite, and then I would speak into, it was like online on Microsoft One, or you can find Microsoft Online where you can use their vocal thing. And so I was doing that. But now I'm just trying to just start typing and getting the words on the computer the first round. So
right. Okay, that makes more sense, because I know that you were doing the handwriting, and then I thought, and then she's going to go and type all that in. Like, my goodness. So yeah, so you're reading.
Yeah.
Did it convert quite well? Did it always a lot of edits?
It depends. We got, myself and the computer, we got more familiar with each other as it went on, but the first part was pretty rough. Yeah, but
yeah, I find my speech to text, it takes a lot of editing, and I don't know if it's an accent or whatever. So you're thinking the computer does learn your
Well, I think I would learn the computer more. I'm sure it's not.
You speak like a robot.
I'm like, I know it's catchphrases and what it needs to do, but yeah, so I don't know, just trying something new. So
great. Well, let's get into our interview today. This is so great to have Ellie Hall with us. Ellie Hall is a US Today bestselling author. If only that means she could wear a tiara and get away with it. She loves puppies, books, and the ocean. Writing sweet romance with lots of firsts and fuzzy feels gives her joy. Oh, and chocolate chip cookies are her fave. Ellie believes in dreaming big, working hard, and lazy Sunday afternoons spent with her family and dog in gratitude for God's grace. Ellie, thanks for joining us on Behind the Story.
Thanks for having me.
So Ellie, for those who aren't familiar with you, tell us a little bit about you and what you write.
All right. Well, I'm a woman of faith. I am a wife, a mother, and my oldest daughter just left on a mission today, so it's been emotional, to say the least. And I write sweet and swoony, I like to say, romance, everything from cowboys to Christmas to rom-coms, with kind of a faith-friendly aspect, and hopefully a few laughs and maybe some tears too.
Sounds wonderful. So today is the day when we release this video, is your latest book, Designing Happily Ever After. So that's the April 15th, 2022. So the part of the back cover says, I'm an admitted type A go-getter. If there are goes to be gotten, I'm the one to get them, or something like that. Don't get me started on how my knack for interior design or is a cover up for my internal struggle, anxiety, and I are frenemies. So what is the story behind this Designing Happily Ever After?
So Designing Happily Ever After, it's the first series in my new first book, in my new series, Home Sweet Home. And my husband's a contractor, and like the last thing he wants to do at the end of the day is watch home improvement shows, but I love them. And so I'm kind of convinced him to watch Fixer Upper with me. And he's like, hey, do you have a Chip and Joanna? So referring to the, to the husband and wife team on that show. And if I had any of those types of characters. And I was like, I don't. And he's like, well, you should. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so, well, none of the characters are actually based off of the real people at all. I was inspired to write, a home improvement show and kind of put my own spin on it. And I made it into a 4-book series. And I have 2 others maybe in the works. So we'll see how that goes. But it was so much fun because I get to blend, the home improvement shows and like the fun befores and afters and all of that, with a love story. So it was a lot of fun to get behind the scenes kind of.
Very cool. That sounds amazing. Congratulations on your release.
Thank you.
So what is your favorite part of the writing process and your least favorite?
So my favorite part of the writing process is all of it and none of it. It's really both depending on the day, what else I have going on, sales, reader response. It's like the kitchen sink where, it can be full and messy or empty and tidy. But kind of to be more specific, I really enjoyed the beginning and the end of the first draft. And that's when I get to really know the characters and the shape the story is going to take, the trajectory of kind of their status quo situation to what throws everything up in the air and kind of how they get out of that back on track and, kind of get there, fall in love and happily ever after. My kind of building off of that though, my least favorite part is the messy middle. And I outlined. So inevitably, as I'm going, I end up having to go back and revise my outline, and I kind of have, multiple documents open, and I'm cutting and pasting and kind of like performing word surgery, you could say. And my characters kind of have their own plans sometimes as we go, so I have to modify, and that can kind of I can get in the weeds at that point, and then once I'm back out of that towards the end, I'm like, whew, okay, got this.
Sounds interesting. So you're a plotter, but you're flexible, and if you want to change it, you're just adjusting, but it takes some work, but you're willing to do that.
Absolutely, yeah.
If you think this is going to be better if this happens or whatever, yeah.
Yes, and I've kind of learned to tap into, like, if I'm writing, typing, and then all of a sudden, like I just don't feel like I'm going anywhere. I'm like, oh, I took a wrong turn, and I go back a couple paragraphs and, refer to the outline and kind of how it's going to connect to the bridge to the next section of the story, the next chapter, or whatever scene or whatever. And it's such a process, but I can, when I pull it off, I'm like, yay, this is my favorite. And then when I'm just like, it's like, I don't like this at all.
I hear that a lot. People getting stuck in the middle, and like, yeah, that's the hard bit, and that's the majority of the story is in the middle, sort of thing.
Yes.
So how long does it take you to work on these books? Because you're cranking them out like once a month, right?
So I outline pretty heavily. Like I do a pretty thorough chapter by chapter outline. So like that's part A, and then part B is actually writing. And so once I'm going, I used to be able to do maybe like 4 chapters a day, upwards of like 8,000 words, like no problem. But with family reconfigurations and time and me kind of hitting a little bit of burnout, I'm more like 2 chapters and maybe 3 if I push it a little bit. So my productivity has cut back a little bit, and I'm just going with the flow. It's like, okay, that's what it is, and I'm on track to release a book a month, but it depends on also the length that I'm aiming for. So the most recent series is my longest. Each book is the longest yet, and so that was more time consuming. And then I have books that are maybe 30,000-40,000 words. I don't know if that means anything to readers, but it's on the shorter side. So yeah. It kind of goes faster. But then I revise and revise and revise. So I work probably too much. I work a lot.
It sounds like sometimes. It sounds like you're saying, oh, I need 2 chapters. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. You're sort of slowing down a little bit, because it is pretty intense to keep it like year after year. You wouldn't be able to do like.
Exactly. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. Well, some people do it, I guess, but they don't have children, and their children are grown up and everything like that, so
exactly.
It's a bit different. Yeah. I would like to ask a bit more about that. So you're so for the readers that were wondering what 30,000 words, so it's sort of like just a shorter novel, or a long novella. So back to your size of your books, and now you're going longer and that. So what's is it just because you feel the story is wrapped up, or you were doing some novellas and you started writing shorter? How do you work out what's a good length, or is it, does your series match like the same length in the series?
So it's both. So sometimes some series, like I have like a small town beach town romance, Christian romance, and I kind of intentionally made those a little bit shorter. They're usually been below 40,000 words, and I try and keep it even across the series so it's consistent for the readers. But I was thinking, this is like the perfect beach read or poolside read, or it's really hot out and you don't want to go out, but it's summertime, so you're kind of in that mood. So it kind of depends on Christmas books. I tend to write shorter because like there's so many Christmas books that you just want to devour them. And so it kind of depends. And then this most recent series, I was thinking it was only going to be 3 books. It grew into 4 books. So I was like, I'll write those a little bit longer. And then sometimes I just get really involved in different scenes and things, and they go longer. But I do try to be consistent. So if you read one of my series, generally they're all going to be about the same length, because I like that personally as a reader. So
yeah, it's interesting. I've been seeing a lot of discussions with authors talking about, sometimes like these days, a lot of people are wanting just a read where they just can get into it and they've read it that day, like 2 hours read, 2.5 hours, and then you still got your readers who do like the longer. But with rom-coms, I think some tending to starting to get a bit shorter, or they're pumping out novellas on like series and stuff. What do you think that works well with the rom-com genre?
I've seen both actually, and I've seen both work really well. Like I think for rom-com, pacing is really important. You want to just keep kind of flipping the pages. So if you have enough material to keep that going, then by all means write longer. But if it's kind of short, sweet, to the point, you get your laughs in, you get your your story arc and your happily ever after, and it's a little shorter. I see it working both ways for sure.
Awesome, cool. And another question I always overtake when I'm interviewing sweet rom-com authors, Naomi doesn't get to ask any questions. It's all right. She did an interview with a biblical fiction author all by herself last
Twice. I did too. I did the last two. So I'll let Lisa take
so
over.
I'm taking yeah, no, I forgot my question. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So with so you've been writing for a long time, all different series. You've got like 9 series, is it? Did you say? Was it 9 series?
So.
Yeah.
I think it's 9, yeah.
Yeah. And how many series have you switched right into rom-com? You've like leaned into that. How many have got?
So I started writing rom-com in 2020.
Whenever I needed it.
One of the funniest years. So both my parents passed away in 2020, unfortunately, and not having anything to do with what was going on in the world. But my mom used to always say, like, laughter is the best medicine, and we all have sense, our family was like sense of humor and all that stuff. So I was like, and I picked up a rom-com and I read it and I was like, oh, this is just what I needed. It was at the appropriate point in time. Excuse me. And so I was like, I generally, a lot of my books have some humor in them. It's not like too serious. And I was like, oh, I think I'm going to give this a shot. And so, so that was late 2019. I started writing and then I just kind of went with it. And I'm really enjoying it, but I just actually finished one of my Christian cowboys and I was so sad to say goodbye to them. And I have a Christmas series coming out later this year. It's rom-com though, I guess. But it still has like, a lot of Christmas elements in it. So, and Christian elements. So it's kind of all of that. But yeah, it's kind of what I needed too, which is kind of contrary to what I was saying about following what readers wanted to read. But I think we all kind of needed a little comic relief at that point.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had a similar experience and also just seeing more people just wanting just that escape, although because life is very serious and lots of stuff going on. Sometimes it's just good to dive into another world and have some joy, in your life. And so, because it can't be all serious and like,
some lightness.
Yeah, you need to have balance. So, okay, so you've been writing for a while, like we mentioned. Are you a part of a critique group? Were you originally part of one? Are you still connected? Is that online or in person?
I have not been part of a critique, like a formal critique group per se, but I guess a critique partner, or like I call her Jane of all trades. My author friend, Amy Sparling, she and I met back in 2014, I think. And I think actually we met on Twitter, and we've never met in person, but we've, talked, we've seen each other and talked like that. But we were kind of right in the same circle and we clicked, and like we kind of joke that we're water cooler buddies. We chat most days, like we take a break and email each other or DM or whatever. We keep each other accountable, which I feel like is it really keeps you from in this industry, I guess you could say, it keeps you from falling in the ditches. Like we cheer each other's successes and commiserate. And I found that even though my family is very supportive, it is nice to have someone that like intimately knows the ins and the outs, the nitty and the gritty of what we do from page to publication. So it's been a lot of fun, and we have different inside jokes about like how writing is a marathon and all these different crossing the finish line moments and the 19th mile moments and all these different things. So I cannot recommend having at least one person, if not a group, enough. It has been a saving grace for me. And we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like it's all of it. And so it's nice having that connection, having that person, and getting feedback and brainstorming and basically all the things, which is I think easier when it's just one person versus a group, because you're there's so many people, but sometimes inside of a group you can find that one person that maybe you resonate with a little bit more, or has they're at a similar point in life as you are, or whatever. We both have older teenagers, so we have maybe a little bit more time, although strangely teenagers take up a lot of time too. So it's great. And I like, anyone that's getting, freshly into this or has been at it for a long time, if you can find someone, I can't say enough about having a person or a group.
Yeah, we agree. That's how Lisa and I met too, is we're part of a critique group. So,
nice.
So it's fun. Does your partner write rom-coms as well, or what genre is she in?
Does, yes. She was just writing mostly young adult, contemporary fiction, and then more recently she's gone into adult women's rom-com. And she really enjoys it, and she's, you know, kind of dipping her feet into that after being in the YA for so long. So I'm excited for her to be a part of the rom-com revolution.
So what's the best writing advice that someone has shared with you?
Oh gosh. So I wish I knew where this came from, but it's such a part of my framework now for everything about writing that I cannot remember. I wish I could credit the person, but the general idea is to write fresh and familiar. So I've had plenty of books that I've written that I call passion projects, quote unquote. And they're just like the books of my heart that I felt compelled to write. And they may or may not fit neatly, you know, on a bookshelf at Barnes and Noble, or, you know, on Amazon's digital shelves. And that's fine. That's good. Like, I think we need to write those stories for various reasons. However, you know, because of career goals and providing readers with a satisfying experience that makes them want to, you know, turn the page and come back for more, and support my family while doing it, because that's important. My intention is to write something that has, like, it's familiar. So it has the tropes and, you know, the magic of the first glance and the first kiss and like those little butterflies of, you know, a new relationship. And while also keeping things fresh. So having unique character traits or hobbies or, you know, different backgrounds, and, you know, aspects like that, to that way I can adhere to what I know. So what's, you know, what's familiar while being creative as well. So I kind of have like, kind of in a way like an outline to keep myself following along with that.
Yeah, definitely. I can see, like, after you've been doing quite a few series, you want to, make it interesting, give them some interesting sort of, not just your usual job or something like that. That keeps them engaged, because you know, you always got the same similar tropes and elements of the romance, so you want to keep it fresh.
Totally. And sometimes even like names, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've used all the names.
I know, you use your favorite names. I use a name generator, but some of them, I come up some weird ones sometimes. Like, can you just press again?
Yep.
And also Googling and make sure they're not some famous person or someone with some news report on them or something.
Yes. Yeah. You have to be very careful of that. Or, you just don't want to tread into those waters.
And because I'm Australian, you know, I don't necessarily know all the, like, someone will say, oh, he's a famous soccer player or something. Oh, it sounded like a really cool name that I made up, but it was, you know, it's someone. But what's your inspiration for writing your Christian fiction? You've got a little series that have Christian themes. How do you get your inspiration for that?
So I think it just comes down to a few things, but it's what I like to read. So, and I don't like skipping pages while I'm reading. It's, you know, there's some content and no judgment at all. People can write what they want to write, but it's like what I like to read. And also my faith and belief in capital W word. So I like to include elements that feel natural or right to do so. And I don't kind of follow a script or an outline in that way. I just kind of write what comes through, what feels true to the characters, especially when they're experiencing, you know, a triumph or a tragedy, you know, that they see as a gift or a blessing or a burden. And then mercy that can come from God. So, you know, it kind of translates to a transformation or a realization or a connection that they have with what's greater in the Lord.
Your readers, I know a lot of Christian readers read Sweet, and a lot of Sweet readers are Christians, but obviously you'll be getting some readers which aren't, you know, into the faith elements, that are reading your Sweet rom-coms, and they might go and check out your other books. So how are you finding that? Because I'm quite interested, because I'm, you know, sort of in that, I'm contributing to a rom-com Sweet, but, you know, should I connect them back to my Christian series sort of thing? I was interested about that.
Yeah, so I've definitely thought about that and wondered about it myself. And so in my Sweet romance, I don't include as many faith elements. Like, I won't quote scripture or anything like that. I keep it faith-based, but not overtly. And so I have had some reviews, which I tend not to like read them too much, but I just like to kind of take a barometer, like, where am I at? And sometimes I've gotten comments like, it's so sweet and so fluffy and, like, you know, it's mushy gushy and all these things. And I'm like, well, yeah, like, look at the cover. It's pink. What do you expect? But kind of apart from that, more to what you're asking, you know, I've had a little bit of concern, you know, if I don't want to disappoint readers or mislead them or anything like that. But on all of my blurbs on Amazon or wherever you're shopping, I do include, this is, clean and wholesome, and, getting involved in all the labels. Like, I just don't like, sometimes on Facebook, people like really get into the weeds with that. But I'm just kind of speaking to what readers refer to in that genre. So, I'll mention that it's faith-based, or, just sweet rom-com. And hopefully that kind of conveys where I'm coming from and what they can expect from the book. And then if you join my newsletter, you kind of get a better idea. And I talk a lot about my different series and books and things, so you can kind of navigate through and see which one might appeal. But I find that there's also a lot of crossover, and I hope that, readers are hopefully generally pretty gracious. And, if like the book isn't as spicy as they'd like, that's okay. They'll go on to something else. Or if it's, too spicy, I'm like, okay, well, we'll just stick with this author or whatever. So, it's a matter of kind of navigating and finding, the kind of books that you want, or skipping the ones they don't.
What is your favorite genre to read?
Cowboys. I love the cowboys. Give me all the cowboys. There's just something so compelling and comforting about like the Western way of life, and like when they're faced with a challenge, their compass turns to them, like kind of turns them to God. But I do love the rom-coms. I love to laugh and just kind of get carried away, and not be thinking too hard about anything. So definitely, I would say my favorites are cowboys, rom-com, and I also love Christmas stories. There's just so like something just so like oh, I'm so happy.
The Hallmarky ones.
Yes, I am that girl. Yep, and unashamedly. So those kind of what I write. It's what I like to read.
Excellent. Well, if you are tuning in either on YouTube or on your podcast, we'd love to know. We've got 2 rom-com authors, and they're always looking for awkward situations. So comment below an awkward situation that maybe happened to you while you were dating, or something that you'd like to see in a book. And maybe one of your situations will you've got 2 options here. So you might have some good luck here in getting into a story with your background.
I love that.
Yeah, that'll be great. I'm meant to write in an anthology, and we have to have a really awkward a clumsy meet cute. So if anyone's got any ideas, I'll be interested to see them in the comments. All right, so back to the market changes. So how do you feel the Christian fiction market has positively changed over the past 5 to 10 years? Because you've been, even before you started publishing. So what was it, 2007 that you've sort of been writing, or 2005?
Yeah, I started, back then. But it's funny because back then I wasn't really paying attention to the market. Like I just didn't I didn't have that piece of the puzzle yet. I was like, later on I was like, oh, okay, I need to like be focusing on more than just like writing the story and remembering to add commas and those kinds of things. So in all honesty, like I haven't necessarily paid attention to what's changed, but I do see more recently, and hope this for the future as well as it continues to grow and flourish. It's encouraging to see readers devouring faith-based books, and it tells me that there's a hunger and a need and a desire for it. So that's, I think that we're moving in a really positive direction. And I think, it just makes me so happy that even in this digitized world, and we can read online, which is great, and I do. But it is so nice to know that people are still reading as much as they are, because you can just like stream shows all day and night. And so I feel like it's very positive to see so many people, enjoying this genre, and hopefully we can, give them what they want.
Yeah, definitely. We can see once, people realize, they can get the ebooks rather than you're just limited to your library, what Christian fiction they have. Like I know my library, like read all the Amish books, and then you get into Kindle Unlimited, and then you just can be just binging all week. Yes. Night and day. We were talking before the show that you were trying to get into the trad market, and was it 2,000 submissions, did you say?
Over 2,000.
Wow. Yeah. So what would you advise someone? I mean, I have a lot of connections and people there, so that I'm worried whether to dive into the self-publishing, and they keep trying to get their agent or send me. What's your experience? What's your advice?
So, let's see. The advice I'd give to someone before they write their first book, whether they're going the traditional route or whether they want to do independent publishing, is to really ask themselves why, which just seems like such a basic question. Just like we ask our characters why they're doing what they're doing, and understanding our own reasoning, I found was really key to helping me move forward and kind of picking a path. And if you want to write the book of your heart, go for it. But is it for you or your readers? Which is like always been a really important question that I come back to. Like, is this book for readers or is this for me? And I really do think that there is a difference. And some books of the heart find great success, but the publishing industry is huge. And you can write a book, but the question is, are people going to read it, enjoy it? That's hopefully part of the why. So I think that the books that we write for ourselves are like really important to our process, to learn how to grow as a writer and kind of go deeper and be the best we can be. And I was saying a little bit before how my writer buddy, I just call her by her name. We talk about it's like training for a marathon. Like, so there's like the stretching and limbering up and all these things. So when we write for readers with that in mind, it's like a different ball game. It becomes less about what we want to say and more about what we want them to feel as, while they're reading, or, are they inspired, understood, refreshed, after escaping into like, a great grand love story or an adventure or whatever. Are they reminded of what's important in life? All these kind of things, these like bigger themes, which, don't necessarily come across, you're not writing out like, oh, the theme of my book is this, but it's just sort of like in the background. It's like the ambient feeling of the book. So even though it might feel like an annoying busy work assignment from high school, digging in and figuring out why we're writing what we're writing, I feel like is crucial because it can really shape our direction. And I think once we have the direction that we want to go in and what our goals are and why we're writing, I think it makes all the next steps that much easier because you can keep returning to that. Traditional publishing is a different animal than self-publishing, and they both have their advantages and disadvantages. And I have no criticism or bias towards one or the other necessarily, but I did try a long time in traditional and did not cut the mustard. So that was my path, but I'm so glad that I went in the direction I did. And I think I would have saved myself a lot of time and heartache. And if I had been more concentrated more on why am I doing this? Do I want to be a New York Times bestseller? Do I want to see my name on the cover of a book? Or do I want to connect with readers and, hear from them and what they loved about the stories? Because that really gives me a lot of edification, like knowing that I touched someone or they could relate or, they just made their afternoon better or whatever. So that said, in terms of figuring out why we're writing, it's not meant to overwhelm anyone. It's like a process, and there's plenty of time to figure it out. It doesn't have to be a rush and have figured it out yesterday. You can kind of figure it out as you go, and it might become more apparent as you're in the writing process or in the publishing process, maybe even in the promotion process. But I really do think that figuring out why we're writing what we're writing can kind of it can kind of cut out a lot of noise and distraction and kind of get us on track faster, which hopefully is positive.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you hide any secrets in your book that only a few people find?
Oh, I do.
Ooh, we want to know.
Yeah. So I love the Twilight series. And I used to always, I had a habit of, and this was sort of in the books that are like in a drawer, like they're not actually in a drawer, they're just on my computer. But I always had a habit of mentioning something about Twilight. Like I would make a Twilight reference, and I had a few of my girlfriends and we would, watch the movies and read the books. We had our little book club online. And so I would kind of like give a little nod to Twilight. But now, in my published books, I'd hide little Easter eggs, I call them, like in how they have in movies. So I might mention like a fictional product from another book that I made up, or a place or an event or something like that from another book, another series altogether. So it's kind of fun to weave these in and like with a little wink and a nod. So for instance, an example would be my husband makes hot sauce. We grow our own peppers and we make hot sauce. and it inspired my character Hattie in let's see, it was lassoing the cowboy's heart, to feature her family's hot sauce recipe at her market. And so it gets a little shout out in another series has nothing to do with the cowboys. And so I kind of like add these little things in, but it's nice because it kind of makes it easier for me. I don't have to like think of a new thing. And yeah, when readers notice it, they really do love it. I was like, oh yeah.
That's cute. Awesome. So let's just get back to, we'll focus on just a bit about you personally. So in 3 words, how would you describe yourself?
Oh, if you asked my husband, he would say, and I asked him. So I was like, I don't know how to answer this. He said, I'm smart, beautiful, and funny. So he gets some hubby there.
Yeah, he definitely gets points for that one.
But I would say, when it comes to writing, at least, and publishing and creating for readers, I do my best to be consistent, present, and engaging. So those would be like, and I do try, I don't know how well I succeed in real life to be that way as well. So just consistency, just stick with it. If something doesn't work, I might not, I might change course a little bit, but in being present, and especially when I'm writing, can always flip on Facebook, but I just try and, stick to my task and engaging with, readers on Facebook and Instagram when I'm not writing.
What are your favorite hobbies outside of reading and writing, and what are you reading right now?
Okay, so aside from family and spiritual time and reading and writing, which are definitely those are my top things probably. I love surfing and hiking, and I do both at least once or twice a week. And I find being in nature helps me kind of clear my head and clear out all that clutter that gets up there, and helps the creative juices to start flowing. And I also started getting more into gardening because I don't have to go anywhere. I can just go in the backyard. And I'm really, really good at pulling weeds. So my husband has the green thumb, but I try. This past weekend, we planted something called pineapple strawberries. They're like little yellow strawberries. So I'm excited to see if those come up. And our regular strawberries are doing well. So we'll see. I may have some gardening characters coming in the near future. We'll see. There's always overlap. And so what am I reading right now? I am reading The Buy-In by Emma St. Clair. I am reading, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of the book. Oh gosh, I usually have a paperback book and a Kindle book at the same time. So, and I'm blanking. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to say the author's name because I can't remember the name of the book because I don't want to, embarrass myself. But
you've got a couple going.
What's that?
You've got a couple books going.
Always, yes.
Always, cool. What is something fun or quirky that may or may not affect your writing?
So, okay. I have a very small dog with a big bark, and I push him in a stroller. So I am that person. I'm the lady with the dog in the stroller. He has bad knees and he can't go very far, but he gets, if he's in the house all day and I'm working, he gets so restless. You can hear him barking right now. He probably heard me say a key word there. The WALK word. So, I bring him out in the stroller, and usually at some point he wants to get out and he wants to walk around and sniff, but then he wants to get back in. So we're kind of a spectacle. We're the people in the I'm the person in the neighborhood with the dog in the stroller. And all of that is to say, I do take my writing career seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. So I love to laugh, sometimes at myself, sometimes pushing my dog in the stroller.
Has your dog and a stroller ever made it in one of your books?
No, but it should. See, this is how it happens.
Drop a 1 in the comments below if you want to see this dog stroller in one of Ellie's books.
It definitely should be in a rom-com.
I never thought of that. Now I have to do it now.
Yeah, it's a bit different to the dog in the handbag, like a dog in a stroller. Yeah,
I have a bag for him. I have a pouch. Like when my kids were little, I had a pouch for them, and now I have a pouch for him because he, I want to take a walk or a hike, and he's just not gonna make it. So it goes in.
So what's coming up next for you, Ellie?
So as we talked a little bit about, I have the Home Sweet Home series coming out with the first book. designing Happily Ever After. And these are my longest books yet. And so, it was really fun to go to the fictional southern town of Butterbury and get to know the lady bosses, and write their love stories, a little hints there. I also, now I'm hopefully ahead of schedule. And I just started my next series after this one, which is a six book small town Christmas Band of Brothers books. So there's 6 brothers, 6 books. It's a spinoff from the last book in another series that I wrote called Hawkridge Hollow. And it's another small town kind of inspired by Whistler. If you're familiar with it, it's just like a pretty picturesque. I'm not one for snow, but it's so pretty to, go there fictionally. There's pie, cookies, Christmas trees, first kisses, and all the like festive fun stuff that you expect in a Christmas book. And the first book releases in July. So I've just have the Christmas carols going. I'm driving my family crazy. I press pause when they come home because my office is the kitchen. So, so I've been getting into that.
Oh, sounds awesome. Well, I've been following your Instagram, so I sort of see a little bit of what you're up to.
Yes.
Where's the best place for people to find you online? Is it Instagram or Facebook?
Yeah, so my website is ellieHallAuthor.com, and all of my Facebook, Instagram, which are the 2 places I do hang out, it's Ellie Hall Author, real easy to find me. And I also have a newsletter, which I send out every week, where I get a little more personal, more books, more deals and stuff like that, some fun stuff. So
I just have to say real quick, with the dog, I'm going back to the dog thing because Lisa's series has a dog, and I'm just picturing this dog in a backpack or something. Lisa, you're going to put Boris in a backpack for me?
Well, in my last book, Ethan teases Jake about how their dog sleeps on the bed, but Caitlin is progressed him to having his own bed, but he sleeps on the bed during the day. But it's a Great Dane, so yeah, it would be. Maybe he can go on a motorbike ride with Jake. That'll be fun. Pause.
I had a Great Dane. Growing up, and I had her pull me when I was doing rollerblading. That's kind of dangerous.
My dog is 7 pounds, so like his head is probably the size, not even as big as a Great Dane's head. So yeah, the whole dog is probably not as big as a Great Dane. So
oh goodness. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ellie, and sharing with our viewers today on Behind the Story.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a delight. I'm so glad I got this chance to chat with you both.
So remember to stay connected to Ellie. On her website, we'll have the link below. You can get her free novella or her book, New Year with the Billionaire. And she's also offering a copy of her new release, Designing Happily Ever After, to one winner. So the King Sumo link will be in the show notes.
Comment below with Team Bibfic if you're here for the biblical fiction world. Love to see you guys representing, even here with the Sweet and Clean romcoms. If you are here from the biblical fiction world, do you know that my novella On Desolate Heights is free for you as well? Sign up to my newsletter, stay up with my happenings, and that is about Balaam and his talking donkey.
If you're here for the romcoms, put hashtag Team Romcom, and you can also download my free novella, Fake Engagement with Steak, and that's in ebook or audiobook. You just go to my website, lisareneeauthor.com. The link will be in the show notes.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Behind the Story. Until next time, let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Thanks for joining us.